Hey guys, so this is a response to Ryan from Happy Healthy Vegan, his response to Joe Rogan's response to What the Health, and I guess that's the first thing that I'll mention. This is something that Ryan mentions as well. Joe Rogan didn't actually watch What the Health, so this little 4-minute clip, he's just going by what ZDoggMD said in his video. Even still, again, this 4-minute clip, most of what Joe says is fine. He's right that the movie is mostly bullshit, just mostly fear-mongering and misuse of science. He even says that, you can be vegan and be healthy as long as you do it right, which is awesome. He also says that saturated fat is an essential nutrient, which no, it's not. And then my favorite part, he talks about, the facts of animal farming being disturbing enough.
There's absolutely negative aspects when it comes to animal agriculture. And I think it's super important to be honest about those negative aspects, even when criticizing it. You can't exaggerate it to make your case look better because the actual facts are disturbing enough.
Yeah, honestly, I was pleasantly surprised by this 4-minute clip when I saw it like a few days ago or whenever I watched it. I don't know a whole lot about Joe Rogan. I remember the Carlos Mencia thing, a decade ago. And I think that's the extent of my knowledge. I've seen some clips of his podcast and I knew that he was into low carb and keto and stuff like that. So I figured that he was going to be pretty anti-vegan. To hear him again talk about these things and to say you can be healthy and be vegan, that's pretty awesome. The second thing I want to mention briefly is that Ryan does touch on the ZDogg review a little bit in this video, and I'm not going to be touching on that because most of what he says is fine. And if you watch a few of his other videos where he expands on this a little bit more, when he actually talks about veganism, he says, basically exactly what Rogan said.
I am not attacking veganism. I think plant-based diets are fantastic for many, many people. I think they're ethical. I think they're sustainable environmentally. I'm actually on your side in this. And the parts that got deleted from the clip we released were really me talking about how actually, if you're gonna be vegan, the best reason for it is an ethical, moral reason because we torture conscious creatures, animals, in factory farms. It's unhealthy for us. It's terribly unethical. And we need to stop doing that.
The point of this video, really, I want to talk about Ryan's insistence that because the filmmakers reference so many scientific sources, that the science is on their side.
Every claim they made in the movie, you can go to their facts page on the website. You can see it minute by minute, second by second. Everything they said is backed up by some kind of scientific reference, some resource, statistic. It's there for you to see.
So this is a huge problem on both sides of the debate, no matter what you're debating, really. I mean, any topic, I think you'll come across this. We just tend to be really convinced by whoever has the most sources, right? We see a bunch of sciencey looking stuff and ooh, we're convinced, right? Oh my God, he has 50 pages of references. He must know what he's talking about. The problem is that, just because someone shows you a bunch of studies, this doesn't mean that A, the studies say what the person says they say, and B, that the studies are an accurate representation of the topic. For instance, I could make a video called Why Smoking is Good for You, supported by science. I could talk about how it helps with weight loss and reduces the risk for obesity using a study like this, and I could talk about how it also reduces the risk for Parkinson's disease using a study like this. But no matter how many references I included, no matter how many studies, no matter how sciencey my video seemed, it would still be misleading and it would still be wrong because making a positive video about smoking means leaving out all of the negative, the fact that smoking is the leading cause of cancer.
Here are the references that What the Health left on their website for people like you who are doubters.
He says this like it's a bad thing, it's bad to be skeptical, it would be preferable to just take the film at its word and to not question any of the claims. But I'm sure that Ryan would not like that applied to other things, right? I'm sure he would not be okay with someone just going to the Atkins website or reading The Case Against Sugar and just accepting any claims that were made. Pretty sure he wouldn't be okay with that.
Not only does a high-fat diet cause diabetes, low-fat, high-carbohydrate, plant-based diets actually reverse diabetes. It's right here for you to see, Joe.
Yeah, but this assumes that the evidence provided by the What the Health filmmakers, by Kip and Keegan, that they are an accurate representation of the evidence of the topic and that they say what the filmmakers say they say. Spoiler, no, they don't. For instance, from the facts page, which is what Ryan is referencing, under the section diabetes is not caused by eating a high carbohydrate diet or sugar, they reference this study on intramyocellular fatty acid metabolism. And just from the conclusion alone, it becomes obvious that this study doesn't say what the filmmakers say it does. Basically, the researchers found an association with insulin resistance in the lean offspring of people with type 2 diabetes and impairment of intramyocellular fatty acid metabolism, and that this is possibly the result of a genetic defect. How in the world does this support the claim that sugar does not cause diabetes, or that a high-fat diet does cause it? And then under this section, we see the other problem. So the studies themselves appear to be fine, and it is true that low-fat vegan diets have proven to be effective at improving glycemic control in clinical trials. But this isn't the whole story. As I talked about in my review of the film, lots of other diets, including low-carb, high-fat diets, have proven to be effective for diabetics as well. In other words, it's exactly what I warned about at the beginning. Studies not saying what they supposedly say, and the studies not being an accurate representation of the evidence, of the full body of evidence. I can't imagine Joe would be convinced by this. So Ryan goes on to bombard Joe with a bunch of evidence that's supposed to make it look like, wow, see, look, a high-fat diet does cause diabetes. He references a Dr. Michael Greger video, a portion of the video, a study from almost a century ago from 1927. He also references a bunch of other studies, like 3 or 4 other studies from 2 decades ago, very small studies as well, and no mention of all of these studies, the much more recent studies that have been done looking at low-carb diets and diabetes and how they can be effective for diabetics.
If you low-carbers can produce some actual science, not just bro science or opinion that says something otherwise, let's have a look at it.
Just because Rogan didn't provide any sources doesn't mean that they don't exist. I mean, if Ryan is really looking to take on low-carbers and take on the science, maybe don't rely on a brief clip from a comedian to do it. In any event, here is a review and a meta-analysis from just this year of 10 randomized trials. Low to moderate carbohydrate diets have greater effect on glycemic control in type 2 diabetes compared with high carbohydrate diets in the first year of intervention. The greater the carbohydrate restriction, the greater glucose lowering. Apart from this lowering of HbA1c over the short term, there is no superiority of low carbohydrate diets in terms of glycemic control, weight, or LDL cholesterol. In other words, like I said in my review of What the Health, weight loss leads to improvements in glycemic control. So any diet that leads to weight loss will lead to improvements in glycemic control. It's really more a question of what the patient will stick with.
And if you really happen to have a problem with the studies and references that What the Health left, well, there's nothing sacred about them. Just check out another book, like, say, Proteinaholic here by Dr. Garth Davis. He has about 50 pages in the back of the book, about 700 studies in all here.
And there are tons of other books with tons of references that come to the opposite conclusion, that don't support a vegan diet at all. Gary Taub's book, The Case Against Sugar, is a great example. It's full of references. So by Ryan's logic, we should all follow Taub's advice and start eating meat and limiting healthy carbohydrates like legumes, whole grains, and fruit.
They refer to studies and papers from very non-vegan sources, non-activists, such as the Journal of Clinical Nutrition and the FDA, all coming to the same conclusion that eating seafood is particularly not a good thing to do right now.
So this is just so wrong. I don't know where Ryan is getting this. The FDA and other health organizations definitely do not recommend not consuming any fish. They recommend not consuming certain fish. Here is an infographic from the FDA. You can see here the specific fish that Rogan mentioned, salmon and scallops. They're on the best choices list, and best choices means that the FDA is actually recommending 2 to 3 servings per week. I find it really interesting how agitated Ryan seemed with Joe in this video, even though, again, Joe was actually really positive towards veganism. Again, he said you can totally be vegan and be healthy.
I mean, I know a ton of people that are very happy being vegan, and you're one of them.
Right.
You know, and I fuck with you all the time about it, but you're a healthy dude.
He talked about the facts of animal farming for the environment and for the animals being disturbing. His main issue was with the film itself, with What the Health, and the misrepresenting of science to promote an agenda, which is true. Now, I know that Ryan won't engage with me anymore, which is sad. You know, we had some good times. We had some fun times, you know, like when Ryan said that Splenda has the same calories, sugar, and I had to explain the difference between volume and weight. I mean, it was fun. Those were good times. So I'm sad, but you know, he thinks I'm operating in bad faith, and that's fine. But you know, I have to ask, does he know that I'm not the only vegan who's not a fan of this movie? Janie Messina, for instance, like an actual dietitian and therefore way more qualified to talk about this stuff than either Ryan or myself. She has a critique of the film on vegan.com that's excellent. You should check it out. Another vegan dietitian and a patron of mine, she also has a critique of the film. Again, check it out. Are they just taking the anti-vegan position to get views too? Like, does every vegan who ever questions anything said by another vegan really have like some sort of ulterior motive? I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I'm pretty sure that it's possible to be vegan and also recognize this film for what it is. Fear-mongering nonsense. And the final thing I want to mention, you know, when we promote a very narrow view of veganism, a very specific vegan diet, like What the Health does by promoting low-fat, high-carb, this is how like most of the vegan doctors promote vegan, is low-fat, high-carb, we potentially shut a lot of people out. This is why I think it's really important to help people do vegan how they want to do vegan, you know, be it low-fat, be it high fat, be it somewhere in the middle, somewhere in between, because all of these approaches can be done healthfully as long as they're properly planned. I know Ryan eats a low fat version of a vegan diet and that's what works for him, and that's great. That's super awesome. But I also know that for him, just like for me, the animals come first. And I don't think promoting a movie that encourages a very specific vegan diet puts the animals first. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Of course, comments and questions down below. If you want to subscribe, that's really awesome. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so at patreon.com/unnaturalvegan. Thank you again, everybody, and I'll have a new video very soon.